After dating for 6 years, I expected to spend the evening with my wife when I got home from work. She was ironing her cocktail dress, clearly excited about our plans. I've always been interested in her social events because Maria is stunning. People can't help but notice her. She has swarthy skin, dark brown eyes, long loose hair, and a slim, athletic body. Before I could ask about our plans, she mentioned that she had accidentally met someone named Logan earlier that day. The name sounded familiar, and I guessed it was her high school boyfriend. She confirmed it was, and they had broken up because they went to different colleges. Though I had never met him, she had talked about him before. Marie explained that she bumped into Logan in the lobby of my office building, and they decided to have dinner together. Even though I usually didn't like other people joining our dates, I agreed because this seemed special. But then she dropped a bombshell dinner was just for her and Logan. I wasn't comfortable with her meeting her ex-boyfriend alone, especially when we usually had a date planned. I asked why I wasn't invited, but she insisted it was just catching up with an old friend and didn't want me judging their past. I told her it didn't feel right for a married woman to have dinner alone with a man, especially her ex-boyfriend. I offered to either cancel the dinner or go with her, feeling the tension building. This made her angry, and she reminded me that I'm her husband, not her father, asserting her independence. Despite her protests, I persisted in expressing my dissatisfaction with the situation. In desperation, she decided to leave on her own. After she left, I grabbed a beer from the refrigerator and sat at the kitchen table mulling over our differences. In the past, we had always discussed things until we came to a consensus on how to proceed. Neither of us implied that we would make decisions without considering the other's opinion. I had to admit that she looked amazing. My main thought, however, was that she looked too good for this dinner. As she walked by, she stopped, kissed me on the cheek and said, "We'll talk more about this when I get home, okay?" I just had to accept her words because we had already discussed the situation and she had made her position clear. She would do what she wanted without worrying about my opinion. Before I left, I reminded her of our plans for the future and told her to remember to use a condom. She quickly replied, "I'm not going to have sex with him, it's just dinner," then wished me luck and hurried out of the house. I went to bed early. She left around 7 p.m., and I heard her come back around 10:30 p.m. She went straight to take a shower, which was her usual evening routine, so nothing seemed unusual. Afterwards, she slid into bed with me naked and whispered in my ear, "Baby, I could use some fun tonight," she told me. Honestly, the very thought that she could get turned on by Logan and then come home for intimate affairs didn't make me too happy. I just wanted to know who she was thinking about. Besides, I didn't feel like we'd fully reconciled. Lying on my back, I found the moment enjoyable, as expected, but her argument still didn't match her expectations. She snapped, "Would you rather I get turned on by you and then have sex with him?" I calmly replied, "So you admit that talking to him turns you on?" She tried to object. "No, that's not what I meant. Regardless of the circumstances, I will only be intimate with you. I love you and I don't understand why you can't understand that." I sat up and turned to face her. "I can't understand why you can't understand why it bothers me. Whatever you were to him before, you are my wife now. My feelings should mean something, as they always have. But now that Logan is back in town, I'm suddenly an obstacle that needs to be dealt with so you can do what you want." She lowered her head and said quietly, "You're right, babe. I'm sorry about that. I should have been more considerate of your feelings. I got caught up in the moment and forgot who was really important to me. Will you forgive me?" I was relieved that she finally understood me and pulled her to me. "Of course I forgive you, darling," I replied. She looked at me with her beautiful brown eyes and asked, "Can we make love now?" We were engrossed in that moment. I forgot about it until 2 weeks later when Maria called to tell me she was delayed at work due to a unique project. Wednesday was the day Logan was supposed to show up according to his regular schedule. I made the decision to visit Maria's office on my way home from work since I don't believe in coincidences. To act as though I was bringing her dinner, I purchased a couple of sandwiches. I went to her office after checking in at the security counter. Maria worked as a secretary for a big insurance company, and this was the first time in 3 years that she had to stay late at work. Since it was after hours, the front door was locked. I tapped on the glass, and she saw me. She looked busy as she came to the door, but her face lit up with a beautiful smile when she saw me. She greeted me warmly and was surprised that I showed up unexpectedly. I suggested we grab a quick bite to eat, and we had dinner in 15 minutes, talking about our days. Afterward, I left her at work and drove home. I felt silly for doubting her faithfulness. Maybe it was just that one dinner, and they really did stop talking after that. 2 weeks later, the same thing happened again. She said she was working late on a new special project. Even though this could mean more responsibilities, I couldn't shake the feeling that something was off. To ease my doubts, I decided to call her office directly. I called at 5:45 and then again at 6:30. Both times she answered, sounding normal, saying she loved and missed me. This pattern continued every other Thursday, and her consistent answers reassured me. Still, my paranoia made me keep calling her regularly. The turning point came at a company party hosted by the insurance company where Maria worked. 4 months later, I was talking to Sheila, the office manager, and jokingly mentioned special projects. It soon became clear that Sheila had not assigned any such projects to Maria in recent months. I apologized to Sheila and then realized, dude, the situation with the Thursday delays became clearer. Perhaps Logan had changed his itinerary due to suspicion or coincidence. The only thing missing was proof. The next second Thursday, I parked my car near Maria's office building and saw her get out, holding Logan's hand. I followed as they drove away in a Ford Taurus, which was different from her regular carry. The cars around them created great cover, and I could stalk them discreetly to gather the evidence I needed. I strategically parked so that I could remain undetected. From afar, I snapped a picture of them as they headed for the hotel room. Logan opened the door, and they embraced on the threshold in a long and passionate kiss. I felt a nasty kick in my stomach when I saw the ring she still wore on her finger. I wondered if she enjoyed wearing those rings at times like this. I called my lawyer, set up an appointment, and notified work of my brief absence. I waited about 2.5 hours until the door opened again. I continued taking pictures while Noria buttoned and adjusted her clothes. She looked disheveled, and her demeanor left no doubt. The evidence of her being with Logan at the hotel was obvious. Putting my phone away, I headed home. Glad we didn't have kids or any major assets together. Splitting the cars and bank savings in half would make things easier. Her call followed, as expected, with another explanation about a special project and a delay at work. I calmed her down by telling her everything was fine and I would see her around 7:30. I knew that would be the last meeting. I paid bills and managed our bank funds without her knowledge. Knowing that a breakup was inevitable, I stopped following up when she called again to say she was running late. I wasn't surprised when I decided to grab a bite to eat on the way home, but I ate without pleasure. I started packing my things. By the time Maria came back at 7:25, everything was packed, loaded into the car, and I was ready to go. She walked in a good mood, and said hello, but when she tried to kiss me, I pulled away. We sat down at the kitchen table, where we used to chat before. She was smiling, not knowing what was about to happen. At first, she thought I was just casually talking about her late nights at work and didn't realize how serious it was. She started to look confused as I kept asking her questions. The conversation got more intense, and as I slowly revealed the truth about her late nights, I decided this would be our last time together. I told her that I had found out about her affair with Logan. She was outraged and disappointed, saying she hadn't seen him since she accidentally met him a few months ago. She assured me she wasn't lying, but the look on her face didn't match her words. I pointed to the photos from 2 weeks ago and told her that if it wasn't Logan, she had to identify that man. I spread the photos out on the table. They depicted Maria leaving the room in disarray. Next to them were the divorce papers. No, Henry, please, it was nothing, just nothing. We can't forget it, she begged, but my resolve was unwavering. I reminded her of our original agreement that infidelity ended the relationship. Despite her assurances and expressions of love, I couldn't ignore her repeated betrayals and lies. I thought we had a strong marriage, she lamented. Henry, please, I love you with all my heart. I can't explain it. But all those old school feelings came back when I saw him. I wanted to experience them again. When he came back 2 weeks later and asked me out to dinner, I said yes. We ended up at a hotel. I wish I could say I didn't want to, but I agreed willingly. Each time it got easier, but less and less pleasant. I thought about putting an end to it, but obviously it was too late. I'm sorry. Henry, please. I'm so sorry. Despite her apologies and regrets, I left the apartment for the last time. 4 months later, the divorce was finalized, and at least Mary respected the decision without resistance. I found myself a one-bedroom apartment, and Maria moved in with Logan, changing offices. I immersed myself in my work and still missed her, realizing we wouldn't be together anymore. Almost a year after that last evening at the kitchen table, I received a text from Maria. She messaged me that she was back in town and wanted to meet up. We agreed to meet at a small bar near my apartment. When I walked in, I saw her sitting in a corner. She had lost some weight, but she still looked beautiful, though a bit different. I greeted her warmly, giving her a light hug and a kiss on the cheek. "What brings you to town, Maria?" I asked as I sat down across from her. She ordered a Coke, and I got a strawberry daiquiri, which surprised her a bit. She noticed the change in my usual order and said, "That doesn't sound like you." "A lot has changed in the last year. Life is full of surprises," I replied. The anger and resentment had already subsided, and we just sat together like two old acquaintances. Maria admitted that Logan had cheated on her. I found that ironic, but I expressed sympathy and asked how she found out. "Turns out there are other husbands who were less tolerant than you. Some of them got together and physically expressed their displeasure with Logan by sending him to the hospital. After that, he disappeared." "I don't know where he went," she replied. She turned to me. "Henry, I am truly sorry for my actions. I was foolish to fall in love with the memory of a man who no longer exists and may never have existed. We had a wonderful marriage and I still love you. I've learned my lesson. Is there any chance?" At that moment, the door opened and a figure in a knee-length blue dress walked toward me. The tall blonde placed her purse on a chair, pecked me on the cheek, and said, "Hey babe, sorry I'm late. My appointment ran late." She took my drink and sipped through the straw. "I got your message. It's all taken care of. Of course, there's no such thing, but I'm ready to spend this evening with you," she said. "Maria, this is my girlfriend Renee. Renee, this is my ex-wife Maria." Renee smiled. "It's a pleasure to finally meet you." Renee turned to Maria warmly. "I've heard a lot about you. I hope it's something good," said Maria. Renee added with a smile, "He spoke well of you, except for the last few months of your marriage, but that's probably not surprising." Maria looked a bit sad and said, "He's a good guy. Be smarter than me and stick with him," turning to Renee. "I plan to," Renee replied. "We've already made plans." I watched their conversation, feeling a little sorry for Maria when she noticed the wedding ring on Renee's finger. Looking a bit confused but still smiling, Maria said, "Congratulations, that's great. I'm happy for you." Renee smiled back. "You were hoping to get him back, weren't you?" Maria sighed. "Yeah, I was hoping to, but I don't seem to have a chance. I think I should go now." "No need to be in such a hurry," Renee said, putting her hand on Maria's arm. "I really want to get to know you better." Maria was puzzled. "Why would you want to get to know your fiancé's ex-wife?" "Because you were an important part of his life and meant a lot to him. You helped him become the man I came to love. Why wouldn't I want to become friends with you and learn more about you?" "Of course, I won't let you two be alone together," Renee explained. "It's just common sense." Maria gave a sad smile. "How ironic. I once heard that you shouldn't spend time alone with your ex when you're in a relationship. I wish I had listened to that advice back then." Second story, I'm a 31-year-old guy, and I've been with my girlfriend, who's 27, for almost 2 years. We just moved in together in March. A couple of weeks ago, I woke up with no call or text from her, which was really weird and worrying because she usually works until 3-4 am naturally. I called her and asked if she was okay and where she was. She told me she had gone to an after-hours event by herself. She was supposed to meet some girls she had met at the bar. She works as a cook at a bar, which is why she has long hours and meets people there. Apparently, the girls never showed up, and she ended up doing coke with a random guy there, but swore they didn't do anything. About a week ago, my mom had open heart surgery. It took a lot longer than expected, and there were complications, so it was a really stressful day for me. All I wanted was to talk to my girlfriend about it when she got home at midnight. She ended up getting off early, around 10:30, and had to drop something off at our sister location. When she got there, she saw that a friend of hers, another girl, was bartending, and she decided to stay there until 12:30. It really upset me that instead of coming home to be there for me after my mom's surgery, she decided to stay at a bar for 2 hours. This past Sunday, something similar happened. She stayed at the place she works, drinking with 2 cooks who used to work there. One was a female she actually worked with, and the other was a male cook she never worked with. I was waiting for her to come home so we could cook dinner and spend time together, but she kept saying she'd be home soon. Soon turned into me getting impatient and going to bed. Last night, she came home from therapy and said, "Hey, remember Sunday when I was out drinking with the old cooks?" I said, "Yes, I do." She continued, "Well, before I left, the male cook and I were outside talking by my truck, and we were both messed up. He leaned in and kissed me, and I kissed him back. She then told me that it was totally out of character for her, and she blocked him on everything and messaged him, saying she's in a happy relationship and doesn't want to mess it up. I've been cheated on before, so my initial reaction is to just end things, figure out our living situation, and maybe live together cordially until our lease ends next March. Or we could break the lease early and I could sort out my own place quickly. But I'm also wondering if I'm overreacting and if it's not that big of a deal since she did tell me 2 days after it happened. And it's not like she slept with the guy. But at the same time, if I let this slide, who's to say there won't be another situation where I have to let it slide again?